What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here with another episode of The Playlist, where I pick 4 albums that have come out sort of recently and give mini reviews of them. And yeah, we're gonna jump right into this one. The first album that I'm talking about today is the newest album from Open Myke Eagle entitled Anime, Trauma, and Divorce. This is Open Myke Eagle's 5th studio album, and before you guys start leaving the comments, no, I have no idea what the rest of Dead End Hip Hop thinks about this album, and I am so sorry that you guys wanted all of them to review it, and all you got is little old me, but you're gonna have to just deal with it. But yeah, this album starts off with the song Death Parade, and I wasn't familiar with the term before, but Death Parade is an anime about people who kind of congregate at a bar in the afterlife, and there they compete in these games in order to win a chance at reincarnation. I've never seen it, but I'm actually curious about it now. But yeah, this song is about the cycle of trauma and how what happens to someone in their youth can determine how they behave as an adult and how they in turn affect other people. Should have been cool, but dude got screwed up because shit got burned up, so he fucked her up. Then she turned big, I got chewed up, that shit fucked me up, so I'ma fuck you up. Really mellow production from Jackknife Lee and Caleb Stone with some nice drum work and this weird chopping of what sounds like multiple voices spliced together, along with some light synths. And the rapping is what we'd expect from Open Myke at this point, the kind of cross between rapping and singing that he does. And he always has this brilliant way of sounding so smooth and laid back while simultaneously giving off this sense of urgency. Sweatpants Spider-Man is one of my favorite songs on here. Myke talks about reevaluating his life after a divorce and approaching his 40th birthday, so it's almost like this whole song about hitting a midlife crisis. And that whole second verse, it hits me so hard. You know, he's talking about reflexes getting slow, trying to work out more, maybe trying to change your fashion sense up this late in the game, all while still having to deal with back and knee pains. It's so great how he speaks to the issue so many of us are going through, even when he's talking about things we haven't specifically gone through. You know, I haven't gone through a divorce, but I can still relate to how that must feel and how it can domino other things in your life. And he does this over such a great beat from Caleb Stone with this really subtle piano parts and these great synths. Ace's Bop is another favorite on here. I really love the beat that Frank Leone put together, a nice break beat with some weird sporadic sounds floating through it, and Myke sounds amazing on this song. I really liked the second verse where Myke is giving a criticism of how streaming services treat artists. We making pennies off of songs, don't get it wrong. Same if it's small or if it's 9-10 minutes long. Email, the deal isn't worth what it's written on. We put it in the air, then we inhale prednisone. The part about the email deal not being worth what it's written on was a really clever wordplay here, because obviously an email isn't written on anything. So unless you're one of those overly technical, well, actually type of dorks who say, what is written on a computer? Then it's a really nice line. And hopefully at some point the way these payouts work changes. It was also really cute how he had his kid on the hook. Oh, and I really liked the callback to Cannonball by the Breeders. Fun fact, that was one of the first songs I ever learned on guitar. I might still know it. I don't know. Everything Ends Last Year is a really good song with Myke talking about some of the ventures he was involved with, ending suddenly, his marriage, his TV show, Hellfire Club. And it's deep listening to this as someone who's a fan of all the things that he was involved in, and the instrumental he chose for this is perfect with the piano and the somber keys. It just works perfectly. In my opinion, Airplane Boneyard displays his best rapping on this album. He's straight and to the point, but he does it with a really dope flow. Quit a whole job and busted my ass, into that road it wasn't no cash, left my scene and walked my own road, but then I woke up a million years old. Overall, this is another great album in Open Myke Eagle's catalog. What I think is so brilliant about this album is there's no conclusive answer to the problems that Open Myke Eagle is presenting here. You know, this is an artist working his problems out in the way most artists do, through their art. It's not necessarily a blueprint for other people. You know, the answers are incomplete, just like our lives are incomplete. And I really like that about this album. Myke sounds unsure in spots on here, just like we're unsure about the many things that we go through in our journeys. And art imitating life is always really enjoyable for me, and I think that Open Myke Eagle really does that well here. This isn't my favorite Open Myke Eagle project. He's not really going into any new territories or doing anything different than he's done on previous albums, but I still think it's a damn good project. The next album I'm going to talk about is the newest album from The Sun's Journey Through the Night, entitled Crawling Nebula of Dismal Light. This is the second full-length from the one-man black metal project from England, and this one starts off with a really spacey ambient piece that sounds straight off of a sci-fi movie soundtrack, and then it goes into the first song, In the Grasp of the Labyrinthian Master. Great, nasty black metal that really hits you in the face immediately. It's really aggressive sounding, and when the vocals come in, they sound absolutely tortured. Immediately, I noticed that they're a bit more in the foreground than on the previous project, and about 3/4 of the way through, you hear some of the best riffs that I've ever heard from this band, guitars and drums. And it always amazes me when I hear a one-man project where every instrument is executed so well. The title track that features Revenant Marquise is just mind-blowing. The fast riff is so nasty sounding, and Revenant Marquise's vocals blend in perfectly here. The keyboard work is really tasteful. It doesn't take away from the aggression. It really adds an ethereal element to it, especially on the first breakdown of the song. It's chilling. And the moment towards the end of the song where the primary music drops out and there's this sort of ambient piece going with these pained vocals that seriously sound inhuman, it's one of the most terrifying parts of this album. The Zone is a wonderful ambient break from the intensity, which features a vocal snippet from Laura Palmer speaking in Fire Walk With Me. And I've heard this sample used in other songs, but this is one of the better uses that I've heard. And the stars going out one by one is filthy, while also being a mesmerizingly gorgeous track. It features AV from the black metal band Abduction, and he blends in perfectly as well. This one's a bit interesting as it features this almost post-punky part about halfway through the song with this ghastly soundscape in the back and this buzzed out bass that sounds straight off a death rock album. And when he extends this part out, it's just great. This album feels like it picked up where their last album, Eternal Black Transmissions, left off, but everything feels elevated. The playing, the riffs, the production quality, the vocals, everything. I really feel myself drifting off when I listen to this. You know, this music has a way of transporting you to a different place. And what's also cool is stare at the artwork while you listen to it. It sounds like some hippy dippy shit, but seriously, give it a go. You'll get a super weird feeling from it, or at least I did. But this album is dreary, it's complex, it's dark, it's somber. It's some of the best laid out black metal that I've heard all year. I loved his last album a lot, but this one takes the ideas and concepts that were done there and improves them in every way. Moving right along, the next album I'm going to talk about is the newest album from Somerset Thrower, entitled Paint My Memory. So I'd never heard of these guys until this album. I listened to it on a whim, but yeah, not sure what genre you'd stick them in, but they immediately give me this kind of 90s alternative feel. The first song, Too Rich to Die, sounds straight out of 1994, and I love it. The driving guitar feels like a mixture of Smashing Pumpkins and Dear You era Jawbreaker, with a little bit of Sunny Day Real Estate sprinkled in there, and it's just so good and infectious. When I clicked play on this, this is not at all what I was expecting to hear. The song 422 keeps that same idea, but adds some almost bouncy riffs that give me vibes similar to the heavier end of Saves the Day. Accelerate Now has a great melodic guitar riff at the beginning that immediately gets stuck in your head, and it gives me strong Promise Ring vibes. You know, the breakdown that comes in at about 3/4 of the way through the song is just fantastic, especially with the guitar leads that are laid down over it. They're really well done. Plaster Saint is an interesting one. When I first heard it, it threw me off a little bit because the vocals are a bit screamed, and I was like, wow, he's got a great screaming voice. too, but it turns out that it's Tom from Indecision laying this part down, but it sounds great. In Your Eyes is one of my favorite songs on here. More of those fantastic driving guitars with the melodic leads over them, and I really love this lyric. I always waste it like something that stays here forever in you. It's all I can do. Overall, I think this album is fantastic. I mentioned a lot of reference bands while talking about it, but I don't want it to sound like I'm saying that this band is just an homage to a whole bunch of other bands and nothing that they're doing is original. I think they're combining the sounds of these other bands into something that sounds fresh. And while wearing their influences on their sleeves, they're not coming off as a boring copycat band. What they're doing here is super intriguing to me. It gives me a nostalgic feel while also exciting me about what current bands have to offer. And the last album I'm going to talk about today in this episode of the playlist is the newest album from Sainte Marie de Loups with Funérailles de Feu. The band name translates to Saint Mary of Wolves, and the album translates to Fire Funeral. And this is the mastermind behind Chambre Froide, which I covered in a previous episode of the playlist. Chambre Froide being one of my favorite current black metal bands, and I felt it fitting to cover the newest album from his other project as well, since I really enjoyed this one too. This one starts off with a really creepy soundscape with these animalistic sounds and this passage spoken in French before erupting into some very violent sounding black metal. And the song never lets up. It just blasts from riff to riff, sounding increasingly pissed off as it goes. I had mentioned in my review of Chambre Froide's last album that one of the things that I really enjoy about this guy's songwriting style is how he's able to put these really killer slow parts into his songs. And on the second song, Meurtrière, you get a taste of that a little over halfway through the song. This time, there's some really eerie keyboards added that enhance the part quite a bit. I forgot to mention I'm going to be butchering these French titles quite a bit. But Dans les yeux des méduses starts off with this really pissed off riff that reminds me a lot of classic Darkthrone. It rolls into a part that's almost melodic, but the slow plodding feel of this song gives it such a nasty and sinister feel. And I love that they kept the energy throughout the entire song. De Profondeur Les Silences was actually my favorite song on this whole album. It has everything that I want from this project. It starts off super aggressive and angry, and his voice, it sounds especially gravelly and gross here. His voice actually even gives me a bit of an Attila feel, which isn't a bad thing at all. But that slow part was just so evil sounding, and it breaking back into the faster, more violent part after that with a single drum hit for a few seconds before launching back in. Dude, it's so good. It's top tier black metal, man. It's just great. But yeah, overall, I really love this album. It's nothing entirely different for the genre, but I don't always look for innovation when it comes to black metal. Sometimes I just look for competency, feeling, and passion, and this album has all three of those things easily. It's intense and it's unrelenting throughout to the point of feeling almost exhausted when the album's over. It's got all of the right elements for a raw black metal project with just enough deviances to give itself some individuality. So yes, that's going to do it for this episode of the playlist. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Make sure you check out all of those albums. If you have, drop some comments down there. Let me know what you guys thought of them. If there's some other albums that have come out recently that you think I should check out, make sure you let me know in the comment section down there as well. And yeah, as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you, and I'll see you guys next time. All right, peace out.